Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. We have an injury update regarding Cole Palmer. A lot of Premier League clubs are after Axel Disasi and Chelsea want £30 million for him. Chelsea and Dortmund complete the double deal of Chukwuemeka and Anselmino, and Aston Villa have dropped out of the Nicolas Jackson race, but they want Christopher Nkunku. Now, of course, I'll begin my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments.
And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k before the end of 2025.
Kicking things off, after that 5-1 battering of West Ham, Enzo Maresca was interviewed and asked about Cole Palmer's injury, and he said, in the last 4 or 5 days, he was not 100%. In the warm-up, he felt something, and we didn't want to take any risk to get worse. He continues to say that the injury is a groin injury. Palace game, he was not 100%, but tried to make a big effort for the club, the fans, and the team. He tried tonight, but it was not very good. Enzo Maresca then goes on to talk about the Cole Palmer FC label that people give us, and he says, you are there to say things and people in general. The ones that say we are just a Cole team. Cole is our best player, and we are much better team. But we showed last season when Cole wasn't 100% and we achieved top 4. Now, there's a lot to break down here. First off, we are hoping that Cole Palmer's injury isn't as serious, right? It was an amazing game against West Ham. We had the injury news in the pre-match warm-up that Palmer wasn't going to be here. And I'm going to be honest, I'm assuming a lot of us fans, myself included, were thinking, oh, okay, how are we going to react to this? Yes, we've got the likes of Esteval and João Pedro could play as a 10. We've got such a deep squad. But how are Chelsea going to react to this? Because we have this Cole Palmer FC label, and I get it. A lot of people from the outside that don't watch us week in, week out are going to have those types of views. However, we responded in an emphatic fashion. Esteval gets his start, an 18-year-old that completely lit up the game. He made one mistake, but he also picked himself up, got himself back in the game, had some incredible bits of play, gets himself an assist on his debut, and it was almost like, wow, okay, maybe we don't need Cole Palmer. And I'm not talking long term. I'm just saying if there does become a time, like right now, where Palmer is injured, we now know it's a groin injury, hopefully he's not out for too long, but we now know we've got players that can come in and play in his position, and there's less pressure on Cole Palmer. That is a big thing for us, because last couple of seasons, last season, Cole wasn't playing as well as he did in his breakout season. We can all admit that, right? But he still played very good football across the season. However, we showed glimpses last year that we didn't necessarily need to rely on Cole for goals and assists because they were coming from all around the squad. And this season we're starting off, yes, we got that draw at Palace, but then after that West Ham game of putting 5 past them without the likes of Cole Palmer is a very good sign. At least in my opinion, I feel like we can... Obviously, we want him as part of the squad, but it takes pressure off of him to be Mr. Man that gets the goals and assists every single week. It's not sustainable, and we saw that last season, right? So I feel like with the squad that we have, we could definitely work around it, but then when Cole is fit, it gives him a lot more freedom, a lot less pressure to then do what he does best, which is create chances for the team and still provide goals as well. So I find that's very important that Maresca addresses that and saying, people say that we're Cole Palmer FC, but we got top 4 last season and he wasn't at his best, which is a bit of a statement. And then obviously last night, without him at all, we then go put 5 past West Ham. Now, admittedly, West Ham are not the greatest team. I will concede that, of course. And I thought we played fantastically well. Very fluid football. There was no match review because, as you can see, I'm not at the office. I'm still away on a family wedding trip, which has been lovely. Thank you for all the lovely, kind words and messages and comments. I really appreciate it. It's been very nice this weekend. And the West Ham game was a beautiful start to the weekend. But putting 5 past them with fluid attacking football, yes, we looked a bit shaky at the back for the first sort of 20, and there's debates about where Sanchez could have done better for that first goal, and even how the team reacted to losing the possession for that first goal. I'm not going to go into it in this video, but there just wasn't a review, and I want to say unreal start to the weekend. But I think it's very important what Maresca's saying. We're not Cole Palmer FC, and now this season is where we were actually going to prove to people that we're not. And it also takes pressure off of Cole Palmer. So I'm hoping that his groin injury is a swift one to recover from. Obviously, we don't want him out for large periods of the season. We're quite fortunate in a sense that we have one more game and then there's an international break. Now, obviously, if he's injured, he's not going to be going on international duty, which obviously he's going to probably feel a little bit for, not to put words in his mouth. He obviously wants to go play for England. It's the height of football for a lot of the national team for a lot of players. But that does give him an opportunity to rest up and come back after the international break, which is good news for Chelsea fans. So let's just hope it's not a serious injury. Also, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the West Ham game. What are your overall thoughts and opinions? Because, like I said, no match review because I was away. So very curious to know your thoughts. And also, what do you think about the Cole Palmer FC label? Have we got rid of that? Is this the season we drop that label from rival fans and prove to them that we don't just rely upon him? And what do you think about Cole Palmer's injury? Do you feel like he's going to be out for a long time? Do you think it was more of a precautionary thing? Yes, he might have that injury, but it's a minor injury. Very curious to know your thoughts. Fabrizio Romano had reported an exclusive late last night that AS Roma asked for Tyrique George after initial contact in July. He is also on RB Leipzig's shortlist, and Premier League clubs are still very keen. This is going to be a huge week for transfers in and out for Chelsea Football Club. We have got the Nkunku situation we're going to talk about a little later, Nicolas Jackson, the likes of Tyrique George, Anselmino and Carney, which we're just about to speak about. In terms of leaving the club, and obviously we're still waiting to sign Xavi Simons and he who should not be named on this channel. It's going to be very, very busy. It's going to be chaos. And already today, with what we're going over today, there's just a lot going on. Now, when it comes to Tyrique George, I feel like a loan is obviously going to be the best option for keeping fans happy and also keeping George at the club. I don't think the club want to sell George. They've made that clear. Tyrique George doesn't necessarily want to leave, but he has recognised that this season will be a very limiting season for match day minutes. And I respect that. I appreciate that. And I also feel like if he can go on a season for development, he's only going to come back stronger, and we can only hope and pray that the board don't sell him for a profit. I don't think they will with Tyrique George. I think he's one of those players that they do want him for the future project. However, we have said that about a few players over the seasons, and they've also been sold. So I'm hoping that George can go get, I think Roma would be a fantastic loan move. Ideally, you want a Premier League loan move because he's staying in the same league. It's the intensity and the pressures of the Premier League that brings. And we've seen how good he can play last season in the Conference League and in Premier League games as well, getting crucial goals and just contributing to the team, which is fantastic. So I feel like Roma could be a very good move for Tyrique George. I think the Serie A will work very well for him. Different style of football. Learning a new language, the culture and different styles of play, coming back to Chelsea after a development season, seeing how things go. Obviously, it does also depend on what we're doing on that left-hand side in terms of recruitment when Tyrique George goes and how the season kind of pans out, as we know how sort of it can be a bit of a revolving door with the board, with players in and out. It's been less so this summer. It's just mainly offloading a lot of players that were no longer a part of the project and then recruiting in key areas. So I still feel confident that Tyrique George will be a Chelsea player, but we'll have to see how the season goes. But with RB Leipzig still interested, Roma still interested, no doubt there are Premier League clubs that are interested. I feel like Tyrique George and Chelsea have the pickings here, so it'll be very interesting to see where he does end up at the end of the window. So let me know your thoughts and opinions regarding Tyrique George. Would you keep him this season, even though he's admitted recognised of limited minutes? Do you feel like a loan is a good opportunity for him to go and develop? Do you feel like this is Chelsea's way of saying, we're going to send you out on loan, develop you more, get your price tag up and sell you for even more money? I'm very curious to know your thoughts. Fabrizio Romano also reported this morning that Aaron Anselmino to Borussia Dortmund from Chelsea. Here we go. Deal agreed on loan. No buy option clause, as Aaron will be back at Chelsea in June 2026. Dortmund will cover his salary. Also expected to sign Carney Chukwuemeka on a permanent deal next. Almost done. And lo and behold, 15 minutes later, Fabrizio Romano then reported this. Carney Chukwuemeka to Borussia Dortmund. Here we go. Deal done and plan confirmed. Chelsea to receive around 25 million euros with add-ons and heavy sell-on clause also included. Key in the deal. Anselmino loan and Carney permanent, both will undergo a medical on Monday. Now, I find this very interesting because we've been speaking about Carney, speaking about Aaron Anselmino going on loan for the last few days, obviously minus the day I didn't upload yesterday. It's very, very interesting to me because I've spoke about this many times with Dortmund and Chelsea and how they do business together, and I've said many times I think Chelsea just cut ties with Dortmund when it comes to Carney. They clearly wanted the player. They didn't want to pay the money that Chelsea were asking, and we were just going in circles. And I feel like this double deal, Aaron Anselmino loan, is the cherry on top for Dortmund, which clearly they've taken. So I'm very happy that we're offloading Carney because he just wants to play football and he wanted the Dortmund move. So on like a personal player level, I'm very happy about that. I'm also really happy with how the deal's panned out, considering where we were at sort of at the start of the window and how we've got to here. Look, yes, 25 million euros is nowhere near the asking price that Chelsea wanted. We wanted around 40 million. We were never going to get that with Dortmund. However, with add-ons and a sell-on clause, things are going to be bumped up for Chelsea on the receiving end in the future. So, like I always say, I'm not an accountant fan, but I just feel like with the way that this window's gone and how the players have moved for inflated money, when it comes to Carney Chukwuemeka going for such a small amount in comparison, I just feel like, have we been mugged off here? But with the sell-on, with the add-ons as well, which I'm guessing Chelsea would have put in there to be easily achievable to then obviously recoup more money a little bit later down the line. Yeah, we'll take that. They're going to take Aaron Anselmino on loan. They've made it very clear, the board, that he is part of the future plans. Maresca likes him and he just says he needs to go play minutes. I respect that. So I think that is the cherry on top. I think that makes a lot of sense. And Dortmund covering his wages, which is always a good move for us. I know we weren't paying him mass amounts of money, but again, it's putting these two together. I feel like Chelsea have created a very good deal. I don't think Dortmund have been stung. I think it's a good deal for both parties. Dortmund didn't want to spend a silly amount of money, and they're actually getting two players. So at the end of next season, I feel like there may be another conversation regarding Dortmund and Anselmino if he goes and does well. However, I'm hoping the board stay firm, dig their heels in and say, Aaron isn't going anywhere because he's part of our project. He's one of them South American wonder kids that we picked up at a very young age in the defensive line, which is very different to the likes of Esteban and Kendry Paez, etc. And Andre Santos. So we're very interested to see how that plays out. But overall, I think that's a very good deal for both parties. I don't see how that goes wrong, really. Carney gets the move that he wants, like club to club. The club got a player that they're after and not paid the amount of money up front that what we originally asked for. And they get an extra player on loan and pay his wages. I think it's a win-win for everyone. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Do you feel like Chelsea should have asked for more money for Carney Chukwuemeka? Have we sold him for too little? Or do you feel like it's a good deal because we've got the add-ons, we've got the sell-on clause included in that? And also we sweetened the deal with Aaron Anselmino. I think it's a very, very good move for Aaron Anselmino, going across to the Bundesliga, playing regular minutes at centre-back. Obviously, he's going to be in rotation with Dortmund's back line, but they've got a new manager, a new system. Hopefully, Aaron can slot right in, get that development for this season, really see how he kicks on. It'll be very interesting to be watching from afar, week in, week out, when he gets them game time minutes, seeing how he develops as a player. Because again, he's part of Chelsea's long-term future, so it'll be very interesting. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the double deal. Nizar Kinsella has reported that Chelsea have given permission to Borussia Dortmund to fly Carney Chukwuemeka and Aaron Anselmino to Germany to complete the moves, and that will take player sales at Stamford Bridge this summer to beyond £270 million. Now, I just want to touch upon this briefly. Obviously, we just spoke about the transfers themselves, but when it comes to Chelsea generating revenue, we've done it again. We are one of the best-selling clubs in the world, if not the best-selling club in the world right now. With the way that we're generating money for players that aren't part of our plans, that, a lot of rival fans said we're going to struggle to offload. Now, yes, there are a couple of big ones. I'm not jumping the gun. You've got the likes of Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell, Disasi, still yet to go. Obviously, we're looking to offload Nkunku and Jackson, which we'll speak about in a minute. They are the difficult ones, right? But then the likes of Aaron Anselmino on loan for development, the likes of Carney Chukwuemeka, where we wanted 40 million, but we managed to settle for 25 plus add-ons and a sell-on clause. Chelsea just have a knack for selling players on. £270 million we've generated in player sales this window. We are basically at a net zero spend. We may actually finish this window in a positive net spend, which is just bewildering for us Chelsea fans. I can't remember the last time that's ever happened in a window where we've actually purchased players as well as sold them and finished in a net positive. So this is just an incredible bit of business from Chelsea. And I kind of want to reiterate what the board was saying years ago when, let's be honest, 90% of fans, maybe 80s, maybe 70% of fans were saying, what are this board doing? Like, what's this plan? They want to be Brighton so bad, go buy Brighton. And I get it, I hear it, right? I've also vented my frustrations at times. I'm not, perfect, but I'm always fair. I'm always critical when needed and also give flowers when it's due. And now it all makes sense what the board was saying all that time ago. And now a lot of fans can be like, do you know what, we can get behind this because we can actually see the results, not only on the pitch, but obviously financially as well, and how we managed to offload these players that we're no longer wanting. I think we've just done incredibly well, and you have to give, tip your hats to the directors and the owners in terms of how they've dealt with business this summer. We had a long list of players we're looking to offload. I think we had 10 days left, and 12 days left. We're looking to offload 13 players. It's absolutely ludicrous, and it looks like an uphill battle, an uphill mountain to be climbing. But I've got a lot of confidence that these directors can actually offload not all of them, or all of them, if not all, a big chunk of that list that's left to go, because of the way that they handle their sales. The way that they're handling their sales, the way we're generating money, it's second to none. It's a very exciting time to be a Chelsea fan for so many reasons. The Jogo Bonito that we showed against West Ham, the young and exciting squad that are gaining experience with each other, the new additions in the key areas in terms of the performances on the pitch and how we can really kick on. The back end side of things where we're, again, it kind of links to bringing in the right players and offloading the players that are no longer part of the project. We're generating revenue through winning trophies as well as player sales. We're not, we're spending money, but then bringing more in. We're yet to get that final shirt sponsor nailed onto our kit, which is an extra line of revenue we've not had for a long period of time. Across the board, from a fan's perspective, everything's rosy right now. Now, will it stay that way? Obviously not. Life is always roller coasters, right? Ups and downs, for sure. But as of right now, it is so rosy to be a Chelsea fan because financially we haven't got to worry about it. where you have clubs like Aston Villa or Newcastle, for example, with varying different sort of struggles with PSR and how they're trying to manage that, whether it's player sales or income coming in, player wages or, money that they're generating as a club. We haven't got to worry about that side of things, which is great. Like I said, I'm not an accountant fan, but it's just nice to know that we're run so well and we're seeing the results of that. But also on the pitch, we are so exciting going forward and fluid in attack, and we've got all the right players in the right areas. Yes, Colwell was a huge miss this season, not denying that. I just feel confident that we'll be able to get over that hurdle, we'll be able to fill that hole, and we'll be able to just to keep going and developing and kicking on this season. It's just a very exciting time. So I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Chelsea as a football club entirely. Do you feel like the owners and the directors are doing the right thing in terms of hiring Maresca and backing him, getting in the profiles that he needed, seeing where the player results are right now, generating the revenue and the player sales? Do you feel like they're doing a very good job across the board, or are you still on the fence? And look, I get it if you are. I mean, again, for me, I'm always critical and I always give flowers. And at the moment, I feel like flowers are due for the owners and the directors for the business that they're doing. Yes, we've not gone out and got a new centre-back. Yes, we've not gone out and got a new goalkeeper. But I feel like they've earned enough of our trust as a fan base to kind of back them a little bit longer in terms of, all right, they want to trust Sanchez, let's see how far that goes. You don't want to get centre back, you want to trust the squad, okay, let's see how that goes, rather than jumping down their throats and wanting them out and all of these things. That it was just a matter of months ago. And I get it, it's such a vast fan base that's split in so many different pockets, but ultimately we love the club and we want the best for it. And right now, I don't see us being in a better position. So very curious to know your thoughts on the entire situation. Court Offside have reported that sources with links to the agents industry have informed Wolves and Bournemouth are among the clubs showing the strongest interest in Disasi. Newcastle, Napoli and some League One clubs could also come into the picture. Chelsea are asking for a figure in the region of £30 million to let Disasi leave. Now, I find Axel Disasi's scenario very, very interesting in a sense that I could think we could all say that Chelsea fans want him to move on, right? A lot of us call him Axel Disaster, right? And I get it. It's a running meme. He's not been great in a Chelsea shirt. He has had some good performances, of course, but overall, it's not been great. And a lot of fans are like, right, he's got to go. Offload him. He went on loan to Villa. Villa seem to really like him. We know that they have issues in terms of spending so much on their player wages that PSR becomes a big issue in terms of player sales, and they have to sell a lot to bring them in. So it's very interesting with Disasi. He's got a lot of interest from Premier League clubs. Wolves, heavily linked. Bournemouth, heavily linked. Last we spoke about Bournemouth, it was a link with a loan with an obligation to buy. Chelsea looking for £30 million, which I feel that they will achieve with the likes of Axel Disasi. Again, basically looking at the window and seeing what other players are being sold for. I don't think you're asking too much for £30 million for Disasi. However, when you do take a step back and you look at it retrospectively, we're going to be selling Disasi for more money than Carney Chukwuemeka, which blows my mind. Yes, I know that deal has the add-ons and the sell-on, etc., which will boost it up. But on face value, you go, wow, you want 30 million for Disasi, but you are happy to take 25 million euros for Carney. That's wild. And it is really when you think about it. But again, if Premier League clubs are interested, I feel like Chelsea will happily get that £30 million. And I think that's a good fee for Axel Disasi. I can't remember off the top of my head how much we spent on him. I think it was around 35, 40, maybe even 45. Because I know that we bought Disasi and Badiashile together and they were very similar in pricing. Now, are we going to get that money back? No, I don't think so. It's been amortised over years, so we'll still be in a good position financially when we sell him. But £30 million is a big fee for someone like Axel Disasi, but I feel like it's a fee that Chelsea are more than happy and can quite easily, I lost my words for a second, they can quite easily go and get that, in my opinion, if a Premier League club is interested. And also for Disasi, I think it'd be very good to go play for a club like Bournemouth, play for a club like Wolves. I think he will play very well for a club like that, and I just don't see a way of him coming back to Chelsea. It's very clear he's being let go. £30 million on the money for me. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Axel Disasi. Do you feel like Chelsea can get £30 million for him? Do you think that Chelsea are asking too much? Do you think Chelsea get rid of him? Or do you feel like they're going to loan him with an obligation a little bit later in the window, as it's closing because no one comes in and pays the £30 million? Very curious to know your thoughts. The Sunsport have reported late last night that Chelsea's demands of £70 million are too much for Aston Villa, who are set to pull out of the race as a result. An unnamed big club are in talks over the Senegal striker. And Fabrizio Romano also reported late last night an exclusive: Aston Villa make contact for Christopher Nkunku as an option for the final week of the transfer window. Bayern and Leipzig are both keen. Villa also informed on conditions. Villa also have Nicolas Jackson, many clubs keen, and Asensio on the list. Now this is where things get very, very interesting. Like we said earlier in the video, Chelsea have a lot of players that we're looking to offload, and we know the two players we're really looking to try and offload is Nkunku and Nicolas Jackson. Now Villa have been very, very interested in Nicolas Jackson, along with other clubs like Newcastle a lot of Italian clubs. Nkunku has had a lot of interest as well. A lot of Italian clubs, German clubs, Premier League clubs. Feels like nothing's really gone anywhere in the last few days. Now, I get it. End of the week, start of the, this is going into the final week of the transfer window. We had a lot of games to be played, conversations to be had. I find it very interesting that Aston Villa are now inquiring about Christopher Nkunku, because in my opinion, I feel like they would be more than happy to pay the sort of money we're asking for Jackson for a player like Nkunku, not for Nicolas Jackson. And that's fair. That's a preference, I assume, from Aston Villa. They don't want to pay the 70 million. The last that we spoke about Jackson and Villa, Chelsea were demanding a 10 million pound loan fee with an obligation to buy. And I thought that might be the route that Aston Villa go down, because it makes more sense financially for them. They haven't got to lay out all that money at once. They can do it over time. And also they kind of get a try before you buy, where, almost like a free trial. Well, not a free trial, but, a little bit of a payment, reduced subscription fee, essentially, to see if they really like how he fits in with the team, because Unai Emery is a big fan. And then obviously if he ticks the boxes, Villa then pay the rest of the cash. I really thought that would be the route that they go down. It doesn't look like that so far, because Chelsea are demanding around £70 million. I think that Chelsea would probably happily take 60, 65. However, now that they're looking to pull out of the race for Jackson and pivoting to Christopher Nkunku, I find this very, very interesting. Now, Nkunku is that versatile player. He's obviously 27 years of age, going into the prime years of his footballing career. He can play a multitude of positions. He would be unbelievable in that Aston Villa squad, knowing that he could play as a 10, he could play an off the left, he could play as a false 9, whatever it may be. I think Unai Emery would absolutely love to have a player of Nkunku's quality in his squad. Just what I want to know, though, is the pivot from Jackson's too much money, but we'll spend it on Nkunku, shows that Villa do have a pot of funds to be spending. It's just the profile of player. I'd be very curious to know how much they are willing to spend on Nicolas Jackson. There were some reports a few weeks back that a lot of clubs wanted to pay around 40, 50 million for him. And Chelsea were like, nah, because we've seen the likes of Hugo move and all these other strikers move, Sesko and Gyökeres, and we're using Noni as a benchmark in terms of where player sales have gone in terms of inflation for this window. We want more money than that. And again, fair enough. Chelsea are, at the start, we're not looking to offload Nicolas Jackson, but they did say that if he wants to leave, we'll find a suitor, which is what's happened. However, if a good bid comes in, we'll definitely listen to it. They've always been open to it, but they're not been physically shopping him around and trying to sell him, and that's the difference. That's why I always said that Chelsea are in a very powerful position here. I feel like the boat has sailed, or the ship has sailed, in terms of reintegrating Nicolas Jackson back into the squad. I think we're all well aware of that. The fan base, a big percentage of the fan base want him gone. Chelsea have basically said if he says he wants to stay, cool, we'll reintegrate him. But he wants to go, he wants to be that special player somewhere else, wants to be, I feel like the stepping stones, the bridges, whatever you want to say, are burnt in terms of reintegration. I think it's a long day at the office for him. It's a long, long day at the office if that happens. And I don't think Chelsea at this stage will let that happen. So I'm very curious to know what happens with Nicolas Jackson in terms of where he ends up. He could still potentially leave and go to Aston Villa. That could still potentially happen. It just, I know it's paper talk with the Sun, but it also lines up with a lot of the other reporters and journalists have been saying. So I feel like there is a little bit of concrete to it in terms of, they might pull out and shift their focus to Nkunku. They've asked about what the options are, how, assessing how that is going to break down, what it would look like for them. And I feel like Aston Villa are probably weighing it up. Said if we're going to spend 60 million or 70 million, we'd rather do it on a player like Nkunku than Nicolas Jackson. The only other thing that does come to mind is if they do go buy someone like Nkunku, which would be a bit of a left field move for me personally. I didn't know that they were interested that way, like Bayern, like Leipzig, have been in Nkunku for a while now. Is what happens to Morgan Rogers? Does that then trigger Chelsea to go out in these final days of the market and spend big on Morgan Rogers? That's what I want to know, because Nkunku is that Rogers player, but just older. Just older. Whether or not you think they're as good or bad as each other is a different story, right? Because it's all personal preference, different stages of their career, etc. But in terms of player profiles, very, very similar. So, I don't know, maybe is it rotation and cover for Morgan Rogers to have Nkunku there? Or is it we bring in someone like Nkunku and we offload Morgan Rogers and we make as much money as possible? Let me know your thoughts down below regarding that, because I'm genuinely thinking about it as I stand here thinking, they're very similar profiles. So does that open up Morgan Rogers and then Chelsea go, oh, he's now free and available, or Villa are allowing him to go now because they have a like-for-like player. We can then go spend a similar amount of money on Rogers, and then, it's kind of like you buy a player, we buy a player, similar price, we're all good. I don't know. Potentially, maybe not. But then also Chelsea are just looking to offload Nkunku and Jackson because we've got Xavi and the player who shouldn't be named on this channel waiting in the wings patiently for that green light to come to Chelsea. So it could just be that Chelsea are looking to offload both of them as quick as possible to any club that wants them for a fee that they're acceptable fee for Chelsea, so then they can just finish their signings, because this all gets tangled into a web of UEFA in terms of registering slots, and players that have been registered need to be deregistered, then register new ones for this campaign. And I feel like we're not racing against the clock, essentially. We are in a sense of the transfer window closing, but in terms of registering players, etc., I think we'll find a way. There's been a recent settlement, which I haven't had time to go over, between Chelsea and UEFA in terms of the payment plans and what we can't breach and what we can do here and there, which will be interesting to go over at some point. But I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions regarding Aston Villa reportedly pulling out of Nicolas Jackson deal, but going for the Christopher Nkunku deal. I think that it works very, very well for both teams, if we're being honest. Also, very surprised that Villa are looking to spend a big chunk of money on someone like Christopher Nkunku. But the one thing I've said in previous videos regarding Nkunku is I kind of hope that someone like Aston Villa comes in and just pays the money, because Bayern Munich have been interested since January. Since January, we outpriced them originally. They've come back. They then wanted to get creative and do these weird sort of deals to try and secure Christopher Nkunku. They're now sniffing around Nicolas Jackson. So I think it's a matter of time until they go. But I'd like a club like Villa to come in and go, how much do you want for him? Oh, it's going to be this. We'll pay that. Thank you very much. Because it just kind of shows these other clubs that are kind of, tiptoeing around and trying to be creative. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like a club like Bayern Munich, they shouldn't be, getting creative with deals, even though they've been told that they can only get loans until the end of the season. I don't really know the inner workings of Bayern Munich, but again, I'd love to know your thoughts down below regarding Aston Villa going after Nkunku. Do you see that this deal going through? Do you see it happening? Do you feel like it's just paper talk? And what happens with Nicolas Jackson at the end of the summer transfer window? And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one. And I mean that. You're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.